Welcome everyone. My name is Birgit. I'm the Director of Product for MediaWiki and Developer Experiences at the Wikimedia Foundation. I'm in that role since about 10 months, and I'm really honored to be able to open the conference with the first presentation today. And that also gives me the opportunity to say thanks to James and Cindy and everyone else for organizing this conference and giving an opportunity for people to get together and discuss and learn. And I really would love to be able to join in person. I wasn't able to, but at least I'm here online and can talk a bit about MediaWiki. Right, next slide. So I'm here today, of course, to talk about MediaWiki product strategy and the investments the Wikimedia Foundation is making in MediaWiki. I want to give an overview on the journey so far, share open questions, challenges, and first successes, and what the next steps look like. You could see it from the title of the presentation that sustainability is a key theme of this presentation, as it's a key part of product strategy. So this is really about what decisions and platform improvements we may need to make to ensure that MediaWiki will serve us well also in the future. So that's key for Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects that depend on MediaWiki and run on MediaWiki to sustain, evolve, and thrive over the next decade, but also for the open source project MediaWiki. So we're talking about investing in MediaWiki and developer experiences. I want to give a very quick recap on what the goals have been for me and the new group that we have in the Wikimedia Foundation to take care of MediaWiki for the first year, and then share a few insights from that time and what we are focusing on. So first of all, building up a new function, a new product function, actually a product function for the first time in the story of MediaWiki is its own task. And also bringing a new engineering group together and ramp up the group and get to processes and a functioning working model and making progress together is its own task. So that's why it's here. And when one of the key goals I had been asked to work on is develop a high-level product strategy for MediaWiki that can guide how the future looks like of MediaWiki as the essential platform for Wikipedia, other Wikimedia projects, but also its role as an open source project. Another focus and goal that we put on for this first year of that is to make progress on key multi-year initiatives that are key to enable platform sustainability and evolution. One core example for that is the parser unification, and C. Scott and Matthias are in Portland to also answer questions on that if you have some. Another key goal was to invest in consultancy and code review to enable more people to contribute effectively, with an initial focus on MediaWiki core. And in addition, start tackling a number of open questions from release to stewardship. And I'm sure that you all also have open questions. We kicked it off with research and with talking to many people. We had a lot of questions to think about how may an effective strategy for MediaWiki look like. The future question, of course, for both the platform and the open source projects, the sustainability question, the key needs question. One question that I found super interesting is to ask, what does core functionality actually mean? We asked that in interviews that we did over the past year to many people. We got really different answers to that question, and it depends on the context, right? And some would say core is what is important, and some would argue that core is like more an architecture question, and it doesn't necessarily tell you if the functionality you're talking about is super important, right? It's more like what is more upstream than other aspects. A key question for me and everyone on the group was also, how can we provide easier, faster, and cohesive paths to feature development? So here we are talking about the integration interfaces of MediaWiki and how to utilize these in the best way and how to provide curated pathways. And last, what does effective and responsible stewardship look like? I think one thing that is really key when you start with a new group, a new function, and start thinking for the first time about what would be needed for moving towards a product strategy for MediaWiki, is that you actually establish a presence. So I think like the worst thing that can happen if you have a new group that no one noticed that the group is there. So this is in the beginning a lot about storytelling and having a regular communication with people and engagement with people. So one thing that we did is starting writing and sending out the monthly MediaWiki Insights emails to talk a bit about our work. I think a lot of that is also to work on the reputation of MediaWiki, because MediaWiki is 20 years old, right? So it's a grown, organically grown software that has also many issues, and but old doesn't mean bad, right? It means we will need to work on some things, but it's I think it has proven to be extremely stable and versatile, and so it's more about finding out how we can build upon that and how can we improve that. Listening and explore to learn has played a key role in the first months, and through the interviews, through design explorations. A couple of weeks back, we were sitting together with the principal engineers to talk about feature development and the different integration interfaces and how that looks like and what is the purpose of which one, and what are the different ways to access MediaWiki's data. Helping people be effective in their work, that means simply a focus on code review and consultancy to enable people to contribute effectively to MediaWiki in a way that it makes sense, and a way that they feel we are not kind of, they touch one thing, they touch everything, and everything breaks, but they can become over time more and more confident to contribute to a core software. So over these few first months, we learned a few things. Of course, some things we knew earlier, but I'm still summarizing it a bit here. And also, we turned those first learnings into first actions, which I found really nice, basically on the go. Through the conversations, before we talk about the challenges, I think I mentioned it already, but we really need to talk about the strengths of MediaWiki and how we did over the past years and what we did well. And one theme that came through in many conversations that I had was that we made really stable technology decisions. And these decisions enabled us to scale for a top website and kept everything running, right? Like the decision to go with PHP and Debian, for example, which are also stable communities, the core stack of what Wikimedia uses, for example, and then within MediaWiki. The second part that a lot of people mentioned is that we have expertise. So there's always someone who knows how to do something, right? We may not have enough people for critical areas, and we may have single points of failures, but there's always someone who knows how to do something. So you can find it out. And quite some people mentioned that the code quality is much better than 10 years ago. So that's again a reputation thing, maybe. So that people who have followed the progress over the years, that they notice that it's getting better thanks to many initiatives and the work of many people. Okay, coming to the challenges. I just want to name some of the major ones that also kind of are going to lead to actions, or also already have started leading to actions. So first of all, of course, MediaWiki is a large monolith code base, and it's a very entangled system. So understanding the system's behavior is hard, making changes is hard, and onboarding people is hard. And those are all things that are kind of contrary to sustainability, right? Because what you need for sustainability is a software that's easy to contribute to, easy to maintain, easy to onboard people into. So the question is, how do you do that? Muriel, who is one of the principal engineers on the MediaWiki engineering group, she had been leading a exercise where she looked into different user journeys and workflows, and how they are kind of supported and served through a MediaWiki software ecosystem. And one use case here is an unregistered, not yet temporary user edits existing wiki text content, fixing a typo on desktop. So, and all these differentiations are important, because depending on whether someone is unregistered, not yet a temp user, or a registered user, then the behavior may look different, right? So, and she was sitting together with many other people, Cindy is one of them, and engineers across the organization, to go through these workflows and talk about how they are served in the software and what is like a system behavior that may be surprising in the workflow, or what may be like makes sense, etc. And these are explorations that we can use when we think about software architecture in the future. And as a side effect, I think it enabled a conversation among the principal engineers in the organization about how things could work in the future, and exploring that a bit. Another key challenge, we have a number of strong contributors with significant knowledge on parts of MediaWiki core, but we need more people who can work on key areas in MediaWiki, especially MediaWiki core, to ensure sustainability of the software. And at the same time, it's hard to onboard people in MediaWiki. So if you want to read more about that, there's a page on MediaWiki.org that says contributor retention and growth under MediaWiki product insights, where I'm sharing a bit the story about how we're thinking about that and how we're thinking about retention and growth of contributors to MediaWiki core. Also a really nice project that came out of that work is a new introduction on MediaWiki, the core concepts and capabilities, as well as the extensions as we have for Wikipedia and the Wikimedia ecosystem. And those are videos done by Timo, user Crinkle, and they are also on Wikimedia Commons, and they're on YouTube. So I will share the slides also on comments, and then you can click on the link and find the videos if you haven't found them by then. Then maybe the most important challenge actually is the lack of clarity on direction. So this is something many people brought up, not only in the interviews and conversations over the past months, but also through the years I have been with Wikimedia and getting to talk with people about MediaWiki. What are the use cases MediaWiki should be built and optimized for, and what not, right? That's a product question. What is core functionality? Some things are in core that may not need to be in core, and some things are not in core that may need to be in core. So how do we define that, and what's our vision for that, and what does it need to be, and what does it need to enable? Specifically, the relationship between core and extensions, right, but also other and the interfaces between them. I think that is something we're going to focus on in the next years and explore that more. So how does that translate into architectural needs and decisions is a key question. Then another, what about code review for volunteers? That is something that had been asked for a long time. What about the release process? Are there any improvements? How is it supported? And what about other needs of a wider MediaWiki ecosystem? And I think moving from project to product enables us to step-by-step bring clarity to these questions. So I'm not going to solve all the questions and discuss all the questions in the first months and the first year, but it enables us to look into a direction and go step-by-step. All right. So I'm coming to my first, let's say, what we're working on right now, and how it's shaping, and what is like the development from project to product, right? And MediaWiki has been kind of created and then supported by different people over the years, and also I think a lot of decisions made by, for example, consensus-driven, or like, okay, let's do this because we can, right? As long as it doesn't impact security or performance, etc., but not really looked at it from a more holistic product perspective, and what really the software should be supporting and optimized for. And I think, of course, MediaWiki backs a lot of different projects, right? But in the end, you need to look at what is like the biggest, largest scale and product that MediaWiki needs to support, and that is right now Wikipedia. And so when we look at MediaWiki, it needs to support and scale for more than 25 billion global page views per month. It needs to scale and enable more than 50 million edits per month. It needs to support and scale for open content in hundreds of languages. And it needs to enable a large collaborative contributor base of editors and many technical contributors. So there's a lot to untackle only in that, right? So I think here we're talking about performance, we're talking about security, We're talking about privacy of user. We're talking about internationalization. We're talking about ways to expand MediaWiki and to build upon as a technical contributor. We're talking about discovery of content, etc. So there's a lot in only that. And that brings me to the design goal. The design goal in the end is to enable the creation and moderation, storage, discovery, and consumption of open multilingual content at scale by protecting the privacy of its users. If you go to MediaWiki.org, you will find a manual that says what is MediaWiki, and it describes some of that, right? Like what are the major use cases that need to be supported? What is MediaWiki app optimized for? I think it's not yet in a product language, but there's always like already traces in that talk to exactly these points, right? Where we, that show up here as well. And I think that brings to, if we would think about the platform mission for MediaWiki platform, then the draft could look like something like this. A well-defined, secure, performant core platform product that offers curated pathways. So that's APIs or hooks extensions or the interface we have today to enable volunteer-powered, multilingual knowledge creation, curation, consumption on and off the platform at scale and in service of Wikimedia's mission. And the benefit of having such a statement is that when you can you can take pieces out of that, right? And you can focus on it. You can say like, okay, what needs to be done to make it secure? What needs to be done to make it performant? But in the beginning, it starts with well-defined. So it starts about talking about what are use cases where you need to focus on in the beginning, right? That doesn't mean that the software product can't be used for various other things, but it does tell a story about what is it optimized for, right? And what is it designed for, and what is the priority. Okay. So obviously, this is a huge, huge thing, right? When we talk about the MediaWiki ecosystem, core extensions, interfaces, what it backs, what it means, it's a huge, huge, huge scope, right? Currently, as we're onboarding the engineering team, we kind of made some decisions on what we look at first and what we look at later, because it's just like an incredible scope. Just core alone is an incredible scope, and for the reasons I mentioned earlier, it's hard to onboard it, so it takes time, right? And similarly, on the product side, if you want to think about how we evolve the platform towards sustainability to better serve core needs and to enable people who build upon the platform through curated pathways, when we're talking about different areas. And this is how, in the end, we're looking at the product focus areas. So the first one is sustainability, which is overarching also to the other two, but it's worth to be its own pillar in that. And here that is about increased sustainability of the MediaWiki platform. So it's about the social and technical factors. It's about the people and the code to ensure the software serves as well as the essential platform for Wikipedia and other key needs. And the release is a part of that. The second R is software architecture, core capabilities and concepts. So define and evolve architecture of a core software to meet current and future needs of open knowledge production and encyclopedic content. The third one is about integration interfaces, how to build upon MediaWiki. So that is about define and evolve the pathways to expand and customize MediaWiki to clarify and streamline feature development and empower technical contributors. So Mateus, who is also in Portland, he's responsible or taking care or focusing on the first one, which is sustainability. And so you get more chance to talk with him about that. Right, moving on. I want to make a kind of, it's not really an excursus because it's like a super critical part of sustainability, but I want to talk a bit about one of the focus areas that we have this year is figuring out how we can enable more people to know MediaWiki and contribute effectively to the software. And as it stands, it's the contribution data to MediaWiki core from this foundation fiscal year that starts in July and runs through June. The distribution is between 3 groups. One is the biggest is Wikimedia Foundation, with more than 70% of contributions. Then we have a kind of solid, stable base of volunteer contributors to MediaWiki Core, about 20% right now, and a smaller percentage of contributions coming from Wikimedia Deutschland, 4.6 at the time I took the screenshot. I found very interesting, over the years I talked with a lot of people about their motivations to contribution and for contributing to MediaWiki. And that is also a question I have to the group here and the audience, and hope that to learn more about that through Mateus and C. Scott and others who are here, or if you reach out directly to me. So one thing I noticed while looking at the contributed data over the years is that really the key classic journey of a volunteer MediaWiki Core contributor is that they would join as a contributor to Wikipedia. Then they would run into limitations on what they want to do. When they would discover and figure out how to write and run code on Wiki, so they would write user scripts and maybe modules and may run a bot, that type of thing. Then they would start contributing to an extension relevant to the field they contribute to. Or they may start writing patches for MediaWiki config to enable specific configurations for a wiki they contribute to. And then they would do their first patch to MediaWiki Core. So, and that's super classic. Many of the strongest core contributors from volunteer side have exactly that journey and background. There's probably also other journeys and ways to get in, but this is like the one that really stood out, that many people told exactly that story. So for us, one of the goals we had this year is that we want to kind of the change of course, and from decreasing or kind of stagnating contributor number to MediaWiki Core, kind of turn it around and start growth again. And we set ourselves a goal that we want to see a 20% increase in people who have submitted more than 5 change sets to MediaWiki Core. So, and currently we are at the 14.5 growth rate, which is amazing. And so still confident that we can hit with 20%, but even if not, I think just showing that it's possible with code review and support and focus on MediaWiki and the reputation of MediaWiki to turn this a bit around. And also, like on our side, of course, with a new MediaWiki engineering group and new people joining, that also contributes to that number, right? So, and another thing that happened in the data that I found really interesting is I looked at time to first review data, actually not only from last year but past years, and that has dramatically decreased from last year 13-ish days on average to 6 down to 6 days on average, and likewise really good improvements on the median time. And that number on the average time to first review is the best number we ever had since we have Garrett. So by far. So, and that was really interesting to see. And I think that's a mix of that. You make a systemic investment in it, and you have more attention to it, right? And people start thinking more about MediaWiki Core and what it needs and how to contribute but also some of our volunteers are more active in code review than recently. So there's a number of factors. But I found that really interesting what you can do. And as we know from many surveys and conversations with volunteer developers and also staff developers, that the one thing that really matters is code review, or whether or not someone is actually looking at your work and maybe just say something, right? Maybe just say, yeah, that's actually a good idea, but needs a few things, or that's not a good idea. That's not something you would be doing in the system, right? Just that is already really cool. All right. So I want to talk more lengthy now about next steps on while I'm going over this slide. So I talked a bit throughout this presentation about the different aspects that we're looking at, right? Like reasons why it's needed to move from project to product, what we benefit from that, the focus on sustainability, the challenges with the software architecture and the entangled system, and the needs on improving developers' workflows, etc. So there's a lot in what I already shared about, and that kind of evolved to what we want to focus on in the next fiscal year. So if you go to Wikimedia Meta, there's like a publication of the Wikimedia Foundation's annual plan, and where you can see all of these, also with a short description, but I still just want to go a bit through that. First of all, in the headline, you see the objectives: MediaWiki platform evolution to better serve Wikipedia's core needs. And the second is developer workflows and service to enable Wikimedia's developers. So within that lens, the focus is on Wikipedia, not in sense of MediaWiki only backs Wikipedia, but in the sense of what are use cases, right? Like what is a use case of Wikipedia? It's a use case of scale, high read traffic, for example, right? So you need to think about performance. You need to think about how to enable the collaboration, how to enable the content creation, the consumption, the discovery from a platform perspective, and that is like at the scale which is like incredible, right? So, and I think keeping that in mind when you design is really important. So this is why it has this focus, because that's most important to figure out how to do it at that scale. There's a number of focus areas here. So the first one is the theme 5.1 and 5.4 as well. They focus on sustainability of the MediaWiki platform. 5.4 is not yet on Wiki because we discussed to decouple that from 5.1. So it's going to become its own thing. So, but this is really about what kind of interventions can we do to increase the sustainability of the MediaWiki platform? That could be, for example, refactoring a part of the MediaWiki core code that has a lot of dependencies on, right? And maybe not a lot of people who may know it. So that could be to look at. It contains in parser unification, because it's sustainability if we end up with one parser in terms of like maintainability of the software and the way forward in platform evolution. So there's the different initiatives where we're thinking about, and Matthias can talk a bit more about that later. The second one is simplify and streamline feature development. So here we're talking about software architecture. What is the relation between core and extensions? What about the interfaces? We want to zoom in a bit on the hooks and extension registry, but also look at other interfaces in a kind of what I call applied science approach. So it will kick off with explorations, technical investigations, experiments, and then the plan is for the second half of the year to kind of do a showcase implementation so that we can show what type of patterns may be good to apply in a very concrete example. So one example that we discussed during brainstorming is the notifications echo extension in Wikimedia, because it has a lot of the business logic of is kind of in an interesting mix between something that may need to be core and something that is actually an extension. And when the extension serves itself as a platform for other extensions who utilize the mechanism. So that may not be bad, but just like to illustrate a bit how we're thinking about it. So thinking about the patterns that will be useful, what is more, what can bring us towards more modularity in the software to make it more maintainable, abstraction layers, etc. And decouple the system a bit to reach, I think, two different goals, right? Making feature development easier in the future, streamline it, but also sustainability again, because it's again about maintainability of the system. So the third one, 5.3, is about support current and future needs of encyclopedic content. So here we're talking about kind of as a follow-up or continuation of a parser unification and what that enables us to have parser active then on the wikis. is that you can think about how MediaWiki models a page and how they could be done differently to, for example, enable the integration of wiki functions and also the integration of Wikidata and other kind of forms of how you compose content later on. So this is super exciting, and that is about one of the core concepts that we have. How does MediaWiki model a page today? And the next one, 5.4, as I talked earlier about, is currently kind of folded into 5.1. We are making it its own kind of goal and priority. And that is what we're doing currently behind the scenes is, as MediaWiki engineering and product, is onboarding and in understanding the release process so that we can officially support and take over for the next long-term support release, which is coming up in a couple of months. And at the moment, it's all about learning from the people who do it today within the organization and taking notes and thinking about what can be improved on the way forward. And that is, I think, a baseline thing that we need to do as we have MediaWiki, the open source project, thinking about what can we improve in release and how can we make that better with the level of support we can give it to. And Mateus is product managing releases on the way forward, so you can also talk to him and ask him questions during the conference. And that is kind of for us aligned with the PHP upgrades and thinking about how we can bring these in alignment and kind of making PHP upgrades at Wikimedia also as a kind of ideally as something like this is like a ritual routine thing that you do at a certain time in the year, and where you get all hands on deck to make it work, so to get a smoother process work. But this is still in the detail and how it will work out in the end. But I think thinking about these two together is really helpful for future. 6.1, now we're going more in the developer workflows area. So the first one, enable efficient decision-making on developer workflows and services. You all work in the MediaWiki ecosystem, so you may know that some things that seem super simple when someone says them can be really hard to do in reality. And this is what this key result is about. So this is really about data that we surprisingly don't have, for we should think we have. For it would be really good to have it. Like, for example, we don't have a machine readable list of all repositories in Wikimedia production, and it's actually not so easy to get to that. It's a quite old fabricated ticket, and there's several challenges and questions to solve on the way to that. But that is something we have been thinking about here. And partially we have data on that are very classic on developer productivity type of data that are kind of not in an accessible way, and just looking at that and making it accessible so that we can make informed decisions without asking a very specific person if they can write a very specific query to get to the data. So this is what about just making it work faster. And the second one is around better serve developers' testing needs. So Tyler from Release Engineering is leading that work. And so that is about exploring, first of all, this is Wikimedia specific, right? So we have a beta cluster in Wikimedia production that actually is serving probably way too many use cases, or trying to serve. And it had been a point of concern in over the past years. So one initiative that we want to do here is looking at these use cases of a beta cluster and taking the most two important from the regular developer satisfaction survey, and think about how we can serve these differently and better. And I think it's read up a description on Wiki and follow the MediaWiki Insights emails. We'll talk about more in the next year, but this is really about how can we make testing for experience for Wikimedia's developer better. And the last one is improve sustainability of ToolForge ecosystem. So ToolForge is our platform as a service product for tools that mostly do something on the wikis, or may augment editing, or may help with a curation, or may serve analytic purpose, etc. And this is really very related also to the broader MediaWiki ecosystem, because a lot of what it's kind of the tools they use, the integration interfaces, right? They use the APIs and other integration interface to function. And so of a Wikimedia ecosystem, that's a critical part, how technical contributors contribute and provide features in the end to the larger community. All right, I'm officially at the end. I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope you could hear me at all times. I'm not entirely sure how much time we have left for questions, but I'm happy to take any questions or thoughts that you have. Also, Mateus and Scott are here in person in Portland, and would love to hear and talk more about release, what's on your mind in terms of like process, docs, etc. How do you work with MediaWiki? What are your experiences? And I personally would be also very interested in what motivates you to contribute. All right. Thank you, everyone.